This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview.
Yes, it's good to be catching up. It's been a little while since we have spoken. I wonder if we can perhaps start off by getting a bit of a general update on how things are going with your joint venture with Dima Export there, and of course the ongoing exploration work, bringing in, well, more than one mine in the near future, hopefully.
Well, it's certainly looking like that. We've been doing quite a lot of work. Of course, the funds are now available for doing all this work. I think they've probably spent something over 4 million already. So there's quite a lot has been going on. And I suppose looking at it, one, they've been able to, or we've been able to, as we're the operators, survey the entire area to a far greater extent than we could afford to do previously. So that's been a very useful exercise. And in the course of that, we discovered the Greenkill gold target and a second entire gold trend, the Skull Martin gold trend, and pretty big events in themselves. And the Skull Martin gold trend extends for over 20 kilometers, has a series of targets along it. And the Greenkill one that I've just mentioned was quite fascinating in that for the first time we're looking at visible gold there. Mm-hmm. And as well as that, we got a record from some quartz breccia assay results of 123 grams a ton, which is over 5 ounces of gold to the ton. And there are some geologists who, as they said to us, have never seen that sort of level in their professional careers. And from our overall point of view, you mentioned bringing in mines, we're already very confident in the extent of gold and its potential. But what Greenkill has shown is that it can also, in the Longford Down Massif, you can also have very high gold grades and also opened out an entire new panorama through seeing the visible gold, because you may or may not remember that on one of our targets, Clay Lake, that was named after the Clay Lake nugget. It's now in the Ulster Museum, and that is really beautiful and quite a large nugget in which you're seeing gold and quartz. There's a whole area there to be explored in the sense that it's obviously come from somewhere. It certainly hasn't come from any of the many targets we've discovered already. So it's tremendously exciting and tremendously interesting. And a huge amount of progress has been made. First of all, in an overall look at the various possibilities. There are obviously a lot of other targets out there. And then secondly, specifically on Clontibret, whereas you know that we have on a small portion of it already JORC compliant resource of 500,000 ounces, and we've always known and indeed stated that Clontibret extended for a far greater extent than the area in which we have the resource. We were guessing it at about 20% of the extent, down to about to a relatively shallow level of a couple of 100 meters. During the course of the step-out drilling that we've been doing at Clontibret, we've shown continuity with another area in which there are very high gold levels. So that's been very encouraging for Clontibret. And yet we still have plenty of opportunities there, both at the relatively shallow levels, and of course also the possibility of going down to depth. And there are a lot of similarities between Clontibret and a very important mine in Australia, the Fosterville mine, in that when we did our studies for actual extraction of the gold at Clontibret. As it so happened, we're seeing a very similar picture than that in the Fosterville situation and their extraction methods. But what's perhaps even more exciting than that, even though it was that similarity that first drew our attention, is that, of course, Fosterville was working for many years, as we could do at Clontibret, with relatively low grades. But when they went down to depth, which we still haven't done, of course, at Clontibret, then there's no guarantee that this will be the situation. But nonetheless, there's a great similarity. And when they went down to depth at Fosterville, they found that the grades very considerably increased. That's not unusual in gold situations. And of course, Fosterville is now a very large and very profitable mine. So it was, from the point of view of Clontibret, we've been delighted at the progress that's been made over the past 12 months or so. But perhaps the jewel in the crown, as it were, is the situation at Clay Lake, on which we've just issued another news release, and I'm sure there'll be others to come, in that there you're looking at Clontibret is big, there's no doubt about that. But at Clay Lake, as we mentioned here, that target extends for 3 kilometers. It's a very long target. And not only that, but it's quite a wide target, 2 kilometers in many parts. And we first discovered it at one end, Cargill-Scoran, some very nice results there. But now the far larger golden soil anomaly at Derryhennet, and it in itself is about 1.25 kilometers in length, and again 2 kilometers wide, covers over 100 hectares. That's a very big area. A similar area to that on which one of our geologists was working out in Ghana and West Africa. That was producing in annual production over 100,000 ounces of gold per year. That's very serious production, and if we get anywhere near that in Derryhennet, in Clay Lake, we will have a very large mine indeed in the Clay Lake area. And of course, we still also have Clontibret and all its potential. So yes, we're certainly looking now very much more at the possibility of bringing in 2 mines, one at Clontibret and the other, perhaps a very large one, at Clay Lake. There's still work to be done at Clay Lake. But we're drilling there at the moment, and hopefully there'll be further news releases coming out.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that update, Richard Conroy, the chairman of Conroy Gold.
You're very welcome.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.